for the next question. Non-directional movements. Non-directional movements response shown by animals in which rate of movement is related to intensity of light. Now, effect of light on locomotion. Effect of light on locomotion. Under this we have to discuss. One we call it as phototaxis. What is meant by phototaxis? The oriented locomotory movements. It is classified into positive and negative. What is meant by positive phototaxis? The animal moves towards the light. What is meant by positive phototaxis? The animal moves towards the light. That is called the positive phototaxis. One best example is euglena. What is meant by negative phototaxis? The animal moves away from the light. That we call it as negative phototaxis. What are the examples for the negative phototaxis? One is planaria, one is earthworm, one is cockroach, one is zooplankton. All these are come under the negative phototaxis. But here, what is the second one? That we call it as photokinesis. Here, what is the example for the photokinesis? Pinnotheris maculatus. Maculatus. Now, as we observe this organism, in its life history, the larva is present. Now, here, the larva is blind. That means, here there is no question of vision. Because the larva is blind. Though the larva is blind, depending upon the intensity of light, its speed of locomotion increases. Depending upon the intensity of light, as the speed of locomotion increases, that we call it as the photokinesis. Now here the question, non-directional movements response shown by animals in which the rate of movement related to intensity of light. Now based on this information, what is the correct answer? The photokinesis. Now we go for the next question. The reproductive cycle in some polychaetes like pelalowworm, its scientific name is Eunice viridis, is related to phases of the moon, which is known as. And now, as we observe the Eunice, it comes under the class Polychaeta. It is popularly known as Pacific pelalowworm. Now, as we observe the Eunice life history, every year, during October and November, in the last quarter of full moon day, as we observe the life history of Eunice, it is popularly known as the Pacific pelalowworm. It comes under the class Polychaeta. Every year during October and November, in the last quarter of full moon day, that means not less than 1 minute, not more than 1 minute, exact midnight, 12 o'clock, thousand and thousand Eunice will come out of the burrows. They undergo copulation and release innumerable gametes. Every year during October and November, in the last quarter of full moon day, not less than 1 minute, not more than 1 minute, exact midnight, 12 o'clock, thousand and thousand Eunice will come out of the burrows. Both male and female perform the nuptial flight. That means they perform copulation dance and release innumerable gametes and again enter into the burrows. That is an example for the lunar periodicity concerned with different phases of the moon. Such lunar periodicity is an example of circadian rhythm. Now here the question, the reproductive cycle in some polychaetes like Pelaloworm is related to different phases of the moon, which is known as, the best example is the lunar periodicity. The lunar periodicity is come under the category of circadian rhythm. In the options, if circadian rhythm and lunar periodicity both are present, first you go for lunar periodicity. If lunar periodicity is not present in the options, you go for the circadian rhythm. Lunar periodicity is an example of circadian rhythm. Now we go for the next question. Assertion. Hamsters, the breeding cycle of both the sexes synchronize. The critical photo period is 12.5 hours for both male and the female hamsters. Now, as we observe the photo period, what is meant by photo period? Availability of light from sunrise to sunset, that is the 6 a.m. to the 6 p.m. This is the period in which the light is available. That we call it as the photo period. In the photo period, the animals shows some responses. The responses during the photo period, that we call it as the photoperiodism. And now, what is the critical? C means critical. What is the critical photo period? 12.5 hours. We are having a good idea in the primary classes. As we observe at the equator, 12 hours daytime and 12 hours night time. Day and night equal at the equator. Now, based on this information, what is the critical photo period time? That is 12.5 hours. Exact at this time, as we observe the male and female hamsters, at the critical photo period, in male hamster, the testes release the sperms. In the female hamster, the ovaries release the ova. These both the reactions are synchronized, associated with what type of photo period time? That we call it as exact 12.5 hours. Now here the question. In hamsters, the breeding cycle of both sexes synchronize, that means correlated. Reason, the critical photo period is 12.5 hours for both male and the female. Exact at critical photo period in both the sexes, the gametes release, undergo fertilization. Based on this information, both are correct or explains A. Now we go for the next question. Planetariums. Now as we observe the planetariums, come under the class Turbellaria. As we observe the phylum Platyhelminthes, in the phylum Platyhelminthes, one class we call it as Turbellaria. What is the common name of Turbellaria? Planetariums. Now as we observe the planetariums, majority, no doubt, the free living. No doubt all planetariums are free living. In the class Turbellaria, majority are free living. Such free living Turbellarians technically called planetariums. Now as we observe the planetariums, they show negative response to strong intensity of light. That is negative. They are called the nocturnal. Now based on this information, planetariums are the second option, negatively photodactic and free living flatworms. Now we go for the next question. Pollaloworm or Pacific pollaloworm. exhibits the lunar periodicity, already discussed. What is the scientific name of pollaloworm? That is Unis viridis. That is an annelid. Come under which class? The Polychaeta. Now here the answer is annelid. Now we go for the next question. Assertion. Light is entertainer. Reason. Because the light sets or resets the biological clocks. Now, as we observe the biological rhythms. What are the biological rhythms? The biological activities occur at regular intervals with a specific time. Again it is repeated. What are the biological rhythms? The regular occurrence of biological activities at regular intervals within a specific time. That we call it as biological rhythm. If biological rhythms associated with 24 hours of a day, that we call it as circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms. All circadian rhythms are biological rhythms, but all biological rhythms are not circadian rhythms, because circadian rhythms are biological rhythms associated with 24 hours of the day. One example here is, what is the best example for the circadian rhythm? Already we discussed the life cycle of Unis. Every year in October and November, in the last quarter of full moon day, it releases more and more number of eggs. And what is the second example for the circadian rhythm? As we observe every day in the evening time, all birds flock on the trees and produces chirping noises. It is quite common. All birds every day in the evening time, all birds flock on the tree and produces chirping noises. That is going on every day at a particular time. That is circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythms are nothing but the biological rhythms. The biological rhythms are under the control of biological clocks. What are the biological clocks? Nothing but the genes. These biological clocks are nothing but the genes. They are present in our body from the birth onwards. These biological clocks initiated or stopped by what type of physiological factor? That we call it as the light. How the light enters into the body? The light enters into the body through eyes, or the light enters into the body through skin. The light enters into the body, it stimulates the central nervous system. The central nervous system gives signals to the genes or biological clocks. Automatically the rhythms may start or stop. So here light is entertainer. Reason, because it sets or resets the biological clocks. Both are correct, or explains A. Now we go for the next question. Assertion. Fruit flies emerges out at dawn from the pupae. Reason. Vital activities of certain animals occur precisely at the same time with a periodicity of about 24 hours. Now, we already discussed this one, we call it as biological rhythms. What is meant by biological rhythm? The regular occurrence of biological activities. If biological rhythms associated with 24 hours of a day, that we call it as the circadian rhythm. Now here one example is for the circadian rhythm. As we observe the Drosophila melanogaster, it is popularly known as the fruit fly. Now in its life history, what is present? The egg. Now the egg becomes the larva. The larva becomes the pupa. And now, as we observe the life history of Drosophila, every year in the life history of Drosophila, particularly at dawn. What is meant by dawn? The early hours of the day. In the life history of Drosophila, every year in the early hours of the day, from the pupa, what will emerges out? The imago. What is the other name of imago? The adult. So that this is associated with 24 hours of the day. So it is nothing but the circadian rhythm. So that here the assertion in the life history of fruit flies, the fruit flies emerges out at dawn from the pupae. Reason: vital activities of certain animals occur precisely at the same time with a periodicity of about 24 hours of a day. So both are correct or explains A. Now we go for the next question. One of the following is not an example for negative phototaxis. What is meant by negative phototaxis? The animal moves away from the sunlight. That we call it as a negative phototaxis. Here cockroach, it exhibits negative phototaxis. Earthworm exhibits negative phototaxis. Planarian exhibit negative phototaxis. What about the euglena? Euglena moves towards the intensity of light. That we call it as phototaxis, positive phototaxis. Here the euglena does not exhibit the negative phototaxis. The remaining three are example of negative. Euglena is positive. Now we go for the next question. Diapause. In insects and the development of gonads in the migratory birds are some responses to. Now as we observe the photoperiod. What is meant by photoperiod? The availability of light intensity from sunrise to sunset. Now in this period we are getting the light intensity. That is called the photoperiod. In the photoperiod, as we observe the birds, only in the photoperiod from sunrise to sunset, the birds perform migration. In the migratory birds, the gonads mature. And in the photoperiod, some birds perform the reproduction. Now, in the photoperiod, as we observe the life history of insects, in the life history of insects, during the photoperiod, the development temporarily stops. That we call it as pause. In the tape recorder, one button is named as pause. What is meant by pause? If we press the pause, the song temporarily stops. Like that, in the life history of some insects, in the photoperiod, the development temporarily stops. That we call it as diapause. Now here, diapause in insects and development of gonads in the migratory birds are responses to. The correct answer is the photoperiod. Now we go for the next question. Dysphotic zone in the ocean extends from a depth of, depending upon the penetration of light intensity. This is a deep water body. Now this is a deep water body. Depending upon the depth of water body, the light intensity decreases. Depending upon the penetration of light intensity, the water body is broadly classified into three regions. One we call it as euphotic, one we call it as dysphotic, one we call it as aphotic. Now this is 0 to 80 meters and 80 to 200 meters. Now the part of the water body between 0 to 80 meters, that we call it as euphotic. In this, all colors of VIBGR are available. What about the dysphotic? It is extending between 80 to 200 meters. Here, all colors of VIBGR are not available. Only few are available in the dysphotic zone. What is the best color available in the dysphotic zone? That we call it as the blue color. Beyond 200 meters, that we call it as aphotic. In this area, there is no availability of the light and there is no availability of oxygen. Now, here the question is, the dysphotic zone in the ocean extends from a depth of 80 to 200 meters. Now we go for the next question. Match the following with reference to cyclomorphosis. Now we go for the cyclomorphosis. What is meant by cyclomorphosis? Seasonally, again repeating, seasonally changes occur in the morphology, that we call it as cyclomorphosis. This was explained by a person called Cocker with reference to one example is Daphnia. What is the common name of Daphnia? That is water flea. Now it is a zooplankton. It floats on the surface of water. Now this one we call it as winter season. The winter is followed by spring season. Now we are going to celebrate Telugu Ugadi on 11th of this month. That means the spring season is going to start. The spring is followed by the summer season and it is followed by fall or autumn season. Now, as we observe the winter season, in the winter season, the water is more cool and the density of water is more. The arrow mark indicates more density. Now, in the winter season, as we observe the head of Daphnia, this is round in shape. Winter is followed by spring season. Slowly temperature increases. Now in the spring season, on the head of Daphnia, a small projection develops. The spring is followed by summer. In the summer season, the water is more warm and the water has less dense. In the summer season, as we observe the projection, on the head the projection is in the form of helmet-like. Again in the fall season, the projection size decreases. Now in the winter season, again the head is round shape. Now as we observe the Daphnia seasonally in the morphology, we have to observe the changes. Because of these changes, the surface area increases. As the surface area increases, with the increasing surface area, the Daphnia freely floats on the surface of water. So what is the significance of cyclomorphosis? Free floating or buoyancy. Now here, as we observe the winter season, in the winter season the head is round in shape. In the spring season, a small projection. In the summer season, that small projection becomes a helmet-like. In the fall or autumn, again the size decreases. Based on this information, what is the correct answer? The second option. Now we go for the next question. Choose the correct combinations from the following. Now, as we observe the Bergman's rule, according to the Bergman rule, cold regions and warm regions. Now, according to the Bergman rule is applicable to aves and mammals. Now, in the colder region, as according to the information of Bergman, in the colder region, the body size of animal is more. In the warmer region, the body size of animals is less. Here, the surface area is less. Here, the surface area is more. Now, surface area to body size is less. Here, surface area to body size is more. What is the surface area? The surface area is calculated based on number of blood capillaries. If less number of blood capillaries present, surface area less. If more number of blood capillaries present, the surface area is more. Through the surface area, the heat comes out or goes out. So, according to the Bergman, the body size is large and surface area less in colder regions. In the warmer regions, body size is less but the surface area is more. Now, the first option, Bergman rule, effect of temperature on body surface to volume ratio of animals is correct. The example is bears. Now, the second one is LNC rule. As we observe the LNC rule is applicable to only for the mammals. According to the LN, the tip of ear, the tip of nose, the tip of forelimb, the tip of hind limb, the tip of tail of fox. Here, the tips called extremities. What is the meaning of extremities? The tip. According to the LN, as we observe the colder region and warmer region, in the colder region, extremities size small, surface area small. In the warmer region, extremities size more and surface area is more. The LNC rule quite opposite to that of the Bergman's rule. Bergman explained he has taken entire body size, but LN has taken only the tip of the snout, the tip of earlobe, the tip of fore and hind limbs, and the tip of the tail. Now, LN's rule, influence of temperature on the size of certain body parts of homeotherms. Here, what are the homeotherms? One example, mammals. Now, the third one, Van 't Hoff rule, influences of temperature on sex ratio. According to the Van 't Hoff rule applicable on metabolism. According to the Van 't Hoff rule, for every 10 degrees rise of temperature, the metabolic rate doubles or twofold or 2. Again repeating, Van 't Hoff rule applicable on the metabolism. According to the Van 't Hoff, in the body of living organisms, for every 10 degrees rise of temperature, the rate of metabolism becomes 2 or double or twice. But here, Van 't Hoff rule applicable to on sex ratio, that is incorrect. Now, what about the Jordan? According to the Jordan rule, the temperature effect on segmentation only in the early stages. Now, you have to observe the fourth option, effect of temperature on segmentation during the development. If temperature less, segmentation more. If temperature more, segmentation less. He worked on what type of animals? The larvae of codfish. So the first statement, the second one, the fourth one correct. The incorrect one is the Van 't Hoff rule is not applicable for the sex ratio. It is applicable for the rate of metabolism. Now we go for the next question. During summer stratification, the upper warm water of a lake. Now here we have to discuss the summer stratification. What is meant by stratification? Formation of layers. Now particularly in the temperate regions, in the deep freshwater bodies. During summer season, in the temperate regions, as we observe the deep freshwater bodies, now this is a deep freshwater body. In the summer season, because of the changes in the temperature, we are going to get the formation of 3 layers. This one we call it as epilimnion, and this one we call it as metalimnion or thermocline, and this one we call it as hypolimnion. In the summer season, epilimnion minimum temperature 21 degrees centigrade. In the summer season, the temperature of epilimnion increases 22, 23, 24, 25. Now what is the maximum temperature of epilimnion? 25. What is the difference? The 4 degrees centigrade. In the summer season, only in the epilimnion, the water is warm. In the summer season, only in the epilimnion, oxygen available. Only in the epilimnion, the water circulates. Based on this information, during summer stratification, the upper warm water of a lake, that we call it as epilimnion. Now we go for the next question. Van 't Hoff rule, Cocker, LNC rule, Jordan's. Again repeating. Van 't Hoff rule applicable on metabolism. According to the Van 't Hoff rule, for every 10 degrees rise of temperature, the rate of metabolism doubles or twofolds, or it increases twice. Second, Cocker. Cocker explained the cyclomorphosis with references to Daphnia, that is a water flea, that is a zooplankton. What about the LNC rule? According to the LNC rule applicable to only mammals. He explained the rule with reference to extremities of some parts of mammal's body, but not the entire body part. What about the Jordan's rule? He explained the effect of temperature on segmentation only during the early stages of the development. Based on this information, Van 't Hoff, now effect of temperature on metabolic rate, Cocker, cyclomorphosis, LNC rule, that is effect of LNC rule on size of extremities. What about the Jordan's rule? The effect of temperature on the segmentation. What about the pigmentation? Glogger's rule. According to the Gloggers, those animals live in the tropical countries are more pigmented. Gloggers rule applicable to the pigmentation. Now we go for the next question. Assertion. Winter stratification does not have significant effect on aquatic organisms. A reason. In winter stagnation, oxygen requirement is comparatively low as the metabolic rate is at slow rate. Now, as we observe the winter stratification, this is a deep freshwater body in the temperate region. In the winter season, this is a water body. We explain only two layers. Now, the water present in upper layers, the water present in bottom layers. In the winter season, as we observe the water present in the upper layers, in the winter season temperature slowly decreases. 4 degrees, 3 degrees, 2 degrees, 1 degree and 0 degrees. In the winter season, the temperature of water in the upper layers slowly decreases to 0 degree centigrade. Now, in the upper layers, the water becomes ice. As we observe the water present in the bottom layers, in the bottom layers, this temperature is maintained. In the winter season, here the water is slightly warm. Here, the rate of decomposition is less. The rate of respiration is less. So, in the winter season, in the bottom layers, what is present? The oxygen is available. So, in the winter season, this bottom water is suitable for the aquatic life. So, the winter stagnation does not show much effect. Now, assertion, winter stratification does not have significant effect on the aquatic organisms. Reason, in the winter stagnation, oxygen requirement is comparatively low as the metabolic rate is at slow rate. So, in the bottom water, the oxygen is available. The bottom water is suitable for the aquatic life. So, the winter stagnation is not much effect on aquatic organisms. Both are correct or explain CA. Now, we go for the next question. Now, the list one, marine cartilage fishes, sponges, thorny devil and seagulls. Now, the list two, gemmules, hygroscopic skin, salty fluid and TMO and cladoic eggs, where we have to discuss these points with reference to water. Now, we discuss marine cartilage fishes. The cartilage fishes exclusively live in marine water. In order to maintain osmoregulation, some amount of urea and TMO mixed with blood plasma of cartilage fishes, so that marine cartilaginous fishes associated with TMO. What about the sponges? During summer season, as we observe the freshwater sponges, whenever the freshwater dries up, the freshwater sponges perform asexual reproduction by internal buds. The internal buds are called gemmules. Now, sponges associated with gemmules. What about the thorny devil? That is nothing but Molocaridas. In the Molocaridas, the skin is hygroscopic. What is meant by hygroscopic? With the help of skin, it absorbs water. The skin prevents the loss of water. Even in the frog body, the skin is hygroscopic. The frog never drinks water. With the help of skin, it absorbs water. Now, thorny devil associated with hygroscopic skin. What about the seagulls? In the body of seagulls, what are present? Salt glands. Whenever the seagull collects the food materials, along with the food material, marine water enters into the body. So, in the body, the salt concentration increases. Excess salts eliminated by salt glands. In the penguin and in the seagulls, the salt glands open near the nasal cavities. Based on this information, The correct answer is 1. Now we move for the next question. Fishes like eels and some birds exhibit. Now, as we observe the eel, its scientific name is angula. Now it is a freshwater fish, come under teleostii. Now eel, the scientific name is angula. During the breeding season, it moves from freshwater to the marine water. The movement of organism from freshwater to marine water, that is called catadromous migration. Whenever the angula moves from freshwater to marine water during breeding season. Now here, fishes like eels and some birds. Now as we observe the Siberian birds, during the breeding season, they migrate from Siberia to some places of India. Now fishes like angula and migratory birds, whenever they exhibit the migration, particularly during the breeding season. Now the first option is the seasonal migration. Here what is the season? That is the breeding season. Now we go for the next question. The following adaptation is observed in the aquatic animals which are subjected to exosmosis. Now this is the marine water. This is marine water. We know very well, in the marine water, the salinity is more. The arrow mark indicates in the marine water the salinity is more. Now in the marine water, this is one organism. Now as we observe the body fluids, the concentration of body fluids of marine organism is less. So that in the marine organisms, from the low concentration to high concentration, the water comes out. That process we call it as exosmosis. Exosmosis. Now, as we observe the marine water organisms, what is their problem? Exosmosis. Because of the exosmosis, from the body, the water continuously comes out. If water loses from the body, the animal suffers from dehydration. Ultimately, it dies. How? These organisms avoid the exosmosis. In order to avoid exosmosis, what type of adaptations? One is aglomerular kidney. And the second one is the chloride cells. The chloride cells eliminate the salts. And the third one, because of the exosmosis, the water comes out of the body. To compensate, the marine bony fishes drink more and more marine water. So here you have to observe. The following adaptation is observed in the aquatic animals which are subjected to exosmosis. Chloride cells associated with absorption of salts. But in these animals, chloride cells eliminate the salts. So first option is not an adaptation. They undergo estivation. Marine animals do not undergo estivation because marine water does not dry up. Second is not adaptation. Third, a well adapted glomerular kidney. But in these animals, what type of kidney? Aglomerular. So third is not the adaptation. Only the fourth one. Because of the exosmosis, the marine water comes out of the body. That means the water comes out of the body. To compensate, the marine bony fishes drink more and more marine water. That is one adaptation. So the fourth is correct. We have to discuss the remaining questions in the next class.